Waiver wired running backs. Let's jump into it before we even get to our first one, which of course is Ty Chandler. Kevin O'Connell spoke yesterday on the status of Alexander Mattison and how effective Ty Chandler was. Take a listen.
Yeah, Alex is going to try to work himself, back this week. We'll see how he does throughout the week. There's no question that I thought Ty had a huge role and impact on the game the other day. Ty is, absolutely a guy that is going to continue to see a featured role in our offense. What that looks like moving forward, as far as who gets the first touch of the game and all those things, we'll continue to kind of work through based upon what we're attempting to do scheme-wise. But there's no question that we have confidence in Alex. But I think Ty's done a lot of great things and will continue to do so, and hopefully will be a huge reason why we're able to have success offensively down the stretch here.
Jay, a monster game for Ty Chandler while Alexander Mattison was hurt. And hearing from Kevin O'Connell there, it sounds like Chandler won't be going anywhere in this offense, whether Mattison is back or not.
Yeah. Now, I think we need to adjust expectations a little bit because the Bengals have the 26th ranked run defense and they lost DJ Reader. So there's always a chance that Ty Chandler was going to look really good against that suspect run defense. At the same time, Cheesy looked better than Alexander Mattison has looked all season. And also, Alexander Mattison and the Vikings, they've played 5 of the 6 worst run defenses in the NFL already. So I think that Ty Chandler, just with the amount of burst that he shows, what he can add in the passing game, also the workload that he showed that he was able to take in the running game, they really should have given him the ball on 3rd and 1 with the game and potentially the season on the line. But I have to think that Ty Chandler is going to be hugely involved in this offense, and he is the guy that you would want to start over Alexander Mattison, even if Mattison is good to go.
Matthew, looking at Ty Chandler, available in 48% of leagues here, so it meets our playoff threshold right now. Let's say Mattison returns. How would you project Chandler in that scenario?
Yeah, I think he's an RB2. I agree with Jay, by the way. If you sort of read between the lines of what Kevin O'Connell was just saying there, you hear like a major part of our offense. Like he was, he was doing whatever he had to sort of, we still have confidence in Alex, the dreaded vote of confidence here. But he kept waxing poetic about Ty Chandler. And I also believe that Kevin O'Connell watches football. I believe he has watched this team play, and I believe he knows what all of us know from the eye test. Like, Ty Chandler's better than Alexander Mattison, and it's not particularly close. You think about last week where he played 81% of the snaps. He got 98% of the team's running back touches. It's the most rushing yards in a game by a Minnesota Viking since Dalvin Cook in Week 14 of 2021. So he gave them a spark, and the reason they lost that game is not Ty Chandler. I'm sure when Kevin O'Connell went back and watched the film, he thought to himself, like, what am I doing calling those QB sneaks with Nick Mullins as well? Yeah, you don't love the matchup against Detroit this week. Lions have allowed under 70 rushing yards in 4 straight. But yes, if you're starting a Vikings running back this week, it's Ty Chandler. I feel better about his workload as of today. It's Tuesday. We're taping this Tuesday at noon. But as of today, I feel better about Ty Chandler's workload than some of the other names we're going to mention, who are all dependent on whether or not the other players on the team are healthy or not. I don't care if Alexander Mattison is healthy or not. Ty Chandler is going to be the guy for the Vikings just because Kevin O'Connell is a rational coach. He's not Arthur Smith. He watches football the way the rest of us do and like, okay, that guy is better. That guy's got a better gear. That guy just gives us a spark that Mattison hasn't all year.
Nice little stray at Arthur Smith. Always good to get them in when
early.
we can. Yeah, very
early
good.
and from any location.
Yep, no, very well played.
All right, our next running back here, Chase Brown, better availability. Chase Brown available in 80% of leagues. He's got the Steelers Saturday, of course, here on NBC. And Matthew, the story with Chase Brown is his involvement in the pass game and how explosive he's looked, specifically in the pass game.
He's been targeted on 46% of his routes over the last 2 games, double-digit touches now in 2 straight games, over 50 yards from scrimmage in 3 straight. He's become a part of this offense, and Jake Browning, who likes to kind of, duck it down, pass it short as well. He's at Pittsburgh. Oh, by the way, that game is on NBC this Saturday. I'm a company man. It's also on Peacock as well. And so I think Chase Brown is more of a 12-team PPR flex play. Look, the Bengals still are very much alive in the playoffs, so Joe Mixon is going to be the main running back, obviously, for Cincinnati. But Chase Brown becomes obviously a very important insurance running back. And as you see it there on your screen, He's somebody whose snap rate continues to, get up there in the, close to 20%. It's been increasing in terms of the total production as well. Like, Chase Brown has earned himself a role in this Bengals offense.
Yeah, I think the thing with Chase Brown, there's two things. One, a lot of this production the past 3 weeks came on that 54-yard screen pass for a touchdown against Indianapolis. He broke a 31-yard run against Jacksonville as well. And so you might look at that and say, all right, well, that's not particularly sustainable. It's also kind of what he does, though, and that's what they bring him in there for, those explosive plays. Matthew mentioned that Jake Browning, he does like to dump it off. He has a very, very low average depth of target. That's what they do in that offense. Also, by the way, Jamar Chase, not going to play. Right. So, again, it just emphasizes the importance of Chase Brown.
All right, so those are our top two there. Now we get into our injury contingent ones. But before we do, of course, an injury we have watched very, very closely throughout the week has to do with Kansas City. As you see, Clyde Edwards-Helaire on this list at 60%, Trey Sermon at 100%, Justice Hill at 87%, Zamir White at 84%. Back to that Kansas City one right there. We got to hear from Andy Reid on the status of Isaiah Pacheco. So take a listen here.
He'll be back this week. He'll be good to go this week. So unless there's further setback, but I mean, right now everything's positive for him to go, and he really had a clearance last week from the fellow that did the surgery to go. So it was just a matter of being precautious on it.
So that was Andy Reid, of course, talking about the status of Isaiah Pacheco, which, Jay, leads us to Clyde Edwards-Helaire, 60% available against the Raiders. He's obviously had significant volume go up with Pacheco's status down. I mean, how do we balance this group now, which, of course, includes Jerick McKinnon as well?
I mean, I think we balance it by just getting rid of Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I don't think that you really want to use CEH, though he did have a solid enough game against the Patriots. A lot of that was dependent on a kind of broken play touchdown, and so I don't think that he's just going to be as involved in the offense. We've seen, how they have used McKinnon at the back end of last season, getting a bit more involved. Pacheco's clearly the guy there, and I don't think that CEH is going to be able to provide value if Pacheco is back as expected.
Matthew, you agree?
I totally do. You see it right there. You're seeing that broken play, which was just sort of a scramble. Mahomes extending the play, and then he throws kind of a jump ball to Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Not something you really want to do. A lot of his production also came on a 48-yard screen pass, which was really set up where just New England was out of position. And but other than that, he's not that good. And to the extent that they use a passing down back to complement Isaiah Pacheco, it's going to be Jerick McKinnon, who's now had 12 fantasy points or more in back-to-back games. Double-digit fantasy points in 3 of the last 4. I would prefer McKinnon if I was starting a non-Pacheco running back for Kansas City this week. I would prefer McKinnon to CEH. Again, this assumes that Pacheco is back. You just heard Andy Reid there. By the way, quick question for both of you: what is precautious? What is exactly that Coach Reid said? I didn't understand that. He said I think he was trying to mean we were trying to be cautious. Or we were trying to exercise precaution, but he said precautious, and I'm just sort of like, okay.
That's fine.
Right.
That's a mold word sometimes. I believe I praised Zay Flowers' explosivity a couple of weeks ago.
We just let it ride.
Yeah, it's fine. The English language is always welcoming new additions. So I like that Andy Reid is being, precautious.
Let's get back to the top of the list, because the biggest one here in terms of injury precautious would be Zamir White, who's available in 84% of leagues. Last week, over 80 yards from scrimmage. He gets the rushing touchdown. Josh Jacobs did not practice all of last week before missing Thursday Night Football. So, Matthew, let's go in with the assumption that it is the Zamir White show again, and we'll have updates on this throughout the week with injury reports. I mean, he has to be one of the top waiver ads if that's the case, correct?
Well, you just think about how this offense operates, right? This is not Antonio Pierce has not been a multiple running back guy. When Josh Jacobs has been out there, it's been Josh Jacobs. And then Jacobs can't go against the Chargers. And so Zamir White gets 68% of the team's running back carries, basically a 12% target share. He plays 70% of the snaps. And honestly, if that game was even slightly competitive, I think he might have played more. They worked a little bit of Amir Abdullah in as well. But it's clear that if Josh Jacobs can't go, they have a lot of confidence in Zamir White being able to carry the load. And this game is at Kansas City. The Chiefs are not a run defense that really scares you, to be perfectly honest. So just, again, if you told me, hey, there's no way Josh Jacobs is playing this week, Zamir White might be my number 1 or number 2 pickup this week. But because as of Tuesday, and when you head into waivers, we're probably not going to know the status of Josh Jacobs. It's one of those things where it's just like he's either a top 20 running back this week or completely useless. So it sort of depends on where you have, what else you need to do in the playoffs here. But certainly, if he gets the opportunity once again, certainly like his chances of success and a big workload against the Chiefs.
Yeah, and it's a bit of a tough one because that game is on Monday, Christmas Day game, the early game on that slate. So you better have a pivot option if you are depending on Zamir White. I think some people might be a little bit scared of game script against Kansas City, the idea that maybe no one's going to be able to run the ball because the Chiefs will be up so much, and they are 10-point favorites. But at the same time, when the Raiders played the Chiefs and got blown out by 2 touchdowns a few weeks ago, Josh Jacobs got 20 carries in that game. He went for 110 yards on the ground, touchdown, 4 receptions, 6 targets. I know they're just not going to let him drop back 47 times the pass. I think they're going to be running the ball no matter what.
Our next one, Jay, Justice Hill, strictly because, unfortunately, Keaton Mitchell out for the season, the torn ACL, a complete projection if you pick him up and have to play him, but 87% available if you're desperate. Thing is, he's got the 49ers on Christmas.
Yeah, it's not ideal. And this is another one of those things where your natural reaction is like, oh, this guy could be the starting running back on the Baltimore Ravens with Lamar Jackson. But then, like, the way Justice Hill has been used the past 2 years, and the fact that Gus Edwards gets all the goal line carries, the fact that they play the Niners, as you mentioned, and they play Miami the week after, which isn't an amazing matchup either. So
Lamar carries the ball.
Exactly.
Right.
So I just don't think that, if you are desperate for a flex option, you could probably do worse just because I think he will get work. But I don't think there's that much of a ceiling on Justice Hill.
Matthew, would you agree with that one?
Yeah, I totally would as well. I will say this. The Niners last week gave up 177 rushing yards to running backs in Week 15 as well. The Ravens have been able to run the ball. There have been moments this year, shockingly, surprisingly, where Justice Hill has gotten some work in the red zone as well in goal-to-go situations. Normally it is Gus Edwards, but there have been times, as somebody that has Gus Edwards on a couple of deep league teams, where I'm like, wait, that's Gus time. What's Justice Hill doing out there? And then, of course, Keaton Mitchell sort of blew by him on the passing attack. But yes, he is a running back on a good offense that is probably in line for 8 to 10 touches against the Niners. It's not a great matchup. It's more likely than not they go to Gus Edwards or give it to Lamar Jackson when they get in close. And as an offense, they don't really pass to the running backs all that much. Having said that, he does qualify at running back. And, as we sit here in Week 16, beggars can't be choosers. But again, more of a PPR flex than anything else. The last one I'll mention here is Trey Sermon. The Colts are such a mess. Who knows? Zach Moss sounds like he wants to play. There's a chance that Jonathan Taylor comes back as well. We saw both Tyson Goodwin and Trey Sermon. Tyler Goodson, I'm sorry, you see it right there. Tyler Goodson after Zach Moss went down for the Colts last week as well. But Trey Sermon, after the Zach Moss injury last week, he played 61% of the snaps, including 7 of 10 plays on third down. He got half the carries inside the 10-yard line. I'm not a huge Trey Sermon fan as someone who once drafted him in a dynasty league and seeing him just wash out at San Francisco. If you're a running back and you can't produce for Kyle Shanahan, that's bad. That's not good. So it's a bit of a mess. But if you're asking me to pick between Sermon and Goodson of the Colts, I think Sermon is clearly the guy that you would prefer there. But again, there's a chance we see JT. Zach Moss may play. He says he's going to try to play through it if he can. It feels like kind of a real. Hopefully, we get more clarity before game time. But as we sit here on Tuesday, there's a lot of uncertainty, I guess, in the Colts backfield.
Yep.
Sorry, Jay.
I was just going to say, just lastly, on Justice Hill and the Niners' run defense being so bad against Arizona, Eric Armstead didn't play in that game. Javon Hargrave didn't play in that game. Those are the 2 big guys in the middle of the defense, and unclear about their status heading into the Baltimore game. I expect they're probably going to play because it's such a big game. They've had this extended break. But if those guys aren't there, then all of a sudden the Niners' run defense just isn't imposing.
Right. It looks a lot different without those 2.
And by the way, and that game was a blowout as well, and so maybe they're not really worried about it. But James Conner had a good day at the office, certainly for his fantasy managers against the Niners last week, in a game in which the Niners were never really whatever. Even when they were down 7-0, and everyone was just like, Niners going to win this by 2 touchdowns easy, and they did, obviously more than that. So, but yeah, listen, it's Week 16, bunch of injuries, we're sifting through whatever to. We're not even panning for gold. We're panning for bronze.
To recap,
Well
panning
said.
for bronze. Let's take a look at Barry's Week 16 top running back waiver targets. Of course, at the top is Ty Chandler, who should still be involved in this Minnesota offense, even if Alexander Mattison does return. Tajay Spears, we've told you every week this season about Tajay Spears. Guess what? He's still good. And Derrick Henry is really struggling, probably banged up. One to keep an eye on there. Chase Brown, Zamir White, Justice Hill, Clyde Edwards-Helaire with the return of Isaiah Pacheco could be an ineffective option. And Trey Sermon with a mess of injuries in the Colts backfield, but also they could be getting healthy as well. Let's jump into the waiver.
Two quick things,
yes.
Connor. Hey,
Go
Connor,
ahead.
before we jump into that, two quick things. Keep the screen up for a second, Pete. I just want to say that obviously if we get news between now and tonight when you do waivers, like, hey, Josh Jacobs has been ruled out or whatever, obviously then it's going to adjust how you feel about some of these guys. Zamir White would jump all the way to the top, et cetera, et cetera. The one thing I just want to say quickly about Tajay Spears, Derrick Henry kind of responded after the game. I think everyone here sort of knows that Derrick Henry is not going to be with the Titans next season, or it's very likely that is not. And so in a team in which the Titans are out of the playoffs, they've officially been eliminated. And so I wonder if whether it's Henry or the Titans or both basically say like, hey, let's shut it down for the year, or let's take it easy on me again, because Derrick Henry's had a lot of wear and tear over the last few years. The team's not going anywhere. He's not back with the Titans next year. He may want to take it a little bit easy down the stretch. And the Titans themselves may say, like, let's see what Tajay Spears can do in a workhorse role. Do we need to go replace Derrick Henry next year, or can we go into the season with Tajay Spears as RB1? So I do think there's more upside than normal for Tajay Spears, especially, by the way, if Will Levis can't go. They may want to lean on the run game even more on Sunday.
Of course, we'll keep you updated on the injury status, the precautious running back waiver ad.
Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and Rotoworld.com, and I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched, or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest Roto-World fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.